Enemies. They can be incredibly cool, they can be incredibly weird, and we've already looked at both of these in other videos. But enemies can also be incredibly annoying, and that's what we're looking at today.
When we rank these enemies, we don't particularly look at the ones that are hard. For example, many enemies can be annoying because they're difficult to kill, but we're not looking at those specifically. Sure, some of them can be really difficult, but we're gonna think more about how they just annoy us in general.
For example, Iron Knuckles in Zelda 2 can be annoying sometimes, because they are really good at defending themselves, but they do offer some really awesome battles because they're also so fun to fight. We feel they give a good challenge. For this list though, we're looking at those that are just bothering us.
Remember that this isn't a list to try and prove which ones that are objectively the most annoying in this series. This is just a list of the 10 enemies we personally find most annoying. So with that said, we're the owners of Triforce, I'm Owner 2.
And I'm Owner 1, and here's our list of our top 10 most annoying enemies in the Legend of Zelda series. Thieves are ass in real life. And yeah, they're pretty much ass in the Zelda series as well.
They appear in games like A Link to the Past and Four Swords Adventures, and they never really hurt you, but what makes them annoying is the fact that they chase you down to make you lose both rupees and a number of different ammunitions.
But as they can't hurt you, you can't hurt them either. You can only knock them back or hide behind obstacles to keep the distance between you. The fact that you couldn't hurt them really frightened me as a kid playing this.
Luckily, you don't face this often, but when you do, they can be really annoying.
Getting hit by lasers isn't much fun, so the BMOs can be a real annoyance. But we're specifically thinking about the ones in the 2D games. They're pretty easy to dispatch in the 3D games, but in the 2D games, like A Link to the Past, they're indestructible.
Their lasers are pretty slow in the 3D games as well, but again, looking at A Link to the Past, their lasers are so freaking fast and knock you back a great deal, and it really feels like they're out to murder you.
It doesn't help when you can't do anything but hide from them whenever the eye looks in your direction, but it's harder when they're placed in a room with a lot of other enemies that keep your attention towards them and forget about the BMOs.
And it's even worse when they appear on conveyor belts. They're not always hard to avoid, but they sure can be annoying.
One of the first enemies to be encountered in the original Legend of Zelda for the NES is the freaking Peahat. It has made a lot of appearances since, especially in the 2D games, and guess what? They're annoying.
With these as well, they're most annoying in the 2D games, as they're only vulnerable when they're on the ground and don't move around. As soon as they start flying, they can hit you, but you can't hit them, and they have such an unpredictable moving pattern that makes it hard to just avoid them.
It's pretty satisfying to find the kill one when they land on the ground, but that window is so small before they're up and moving again, and sometimes they land in the freaking walls, making them unreachable.
Have become simpler to handle as the series has progressed, but their incarnations from the Game Boy Color games and earlier have made them appear as one of our top 10 most annoying enemies.
They can't take much damage, they have funny eyes, but they also have a really unpredictable pattern at high speeds. It's a given that the mini version of one of the most infamous and annoying Zelda bosses, the Moldorm, is also one of the series' most annoying enemies.
These can be difficult to kill because of the mentioned speed and unpredictable movement, and if you're low on hearts, they're not easier to handle. It's tough to hit them with ranged items, and it's often tough to hit them with your sword without getting hit by them as well. They're not always that tough to handle, but they sure can be an annoyance.
We mentioned the Peahats as one of the first enemies to encounter in the original Legend of Zelda for the NES, but perhaps the most likely enemy to face first there is the Octorok.
They've always been pretty annoying with somewhat rapid movement in 2D games, and spitting everything from rocks to popcorn on you in all the games they've appeared in.
But they were never as annoying as we found them in Breath of the Wild. They have several different appearances and are nothing but annoying. First of all, you have the Water Octoroks, who just have a ridiculous range with their attacks. You just stroll alongside the water and BAM! A freaking Octorok just attacks you from like a mile away.
Then you have the Forest Octorok, who hide beneath the ground with a plant on top to camouflage itself with the surroundings and move incredibly fast whenever they relocate.
Then there are also the Rock and Snow Octorok, who are also a little annoying in their own ways.
But then there's the Treasure Octoroks, which are Octoroks with a freaking treasure chest on their heads. You go up to it thinking, oh, a treasure chest. But nope, that's an Octorok attacking you. We never approached a chest without using the Magnesis rune ever again. We haven't really been hiding our fascination for undead enemies, and the Wallmasters are some of the creepiest, but also one of the cooler enemies in the series, in our opinion.
But that doesn't take away the fact that both they and the Floormasters can be really annoying. Most of them, notably with the exception of the Floormaster in Ocarina of Time, which we'll get to later, their sole purpose is to grab you and take you to the entrance or the last door of the dungeon or location that you're in.
It's sometimes easy to defeat them, as in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, you can see their shadows grow larger around you and hear a sound as they get closer, so it's easy to step aside and kill them.
But they're a lot quicker in A Link to the Past and chase you around the room in the original Legend of Zelda, and the Floormasters do that in Wind Waker with an additional annoying sound effect when you attack it. Again, they're not always super hard to avoid, but it's really annoying when you finally make progress through a dungeon only to be taken back a bit.
The Floormasters in Ocarina of Time are a bit different, as they always stay on the ground and attack you more head on. The annoying part about them is how they split into 3 when you manage to slice them up, which makes them harder to hit. And if you don't kill them off quick enough, they'll grow back to the full size, which is also really annoying. Hold on to your shields and tunics, cause here comes the like.
These disgusting creatures are pretty much nothing but annoying. They're usually a bit slow, but the way they suck you up and take stuff from you is not fun at all. It's one thing to lose your Goron or Zora tunic and the Hylian shield in Ocarina of Time, where you can just get it all back if you kill it, but it's another thing in other games like the original Legend of Zelda.
Losing your shield in this game is a huge bummer, since they're really expensive and rupees don't appear a lot here as in other games. You can lose your stuff in Ocarina of Time too if you die before killing the like and retrieving your stuff, but in this game, it's just gone as soon as it has grabbed you.
They just never stop being annoying with new additions throughout the series either, where in Minish Cap, they hide underneath the ground, sometimes even disguised as a rupee. In Phantom Hourglass, they suck you in with a whirlwind and you gotta rub the stylus on your screen to get loose. In fact, just being stuck inside one, sometimes knowing you'll lose your stuff while struggling to get loose, is definitely one of the most annoying things to do in a Zelda game. At first we wanted both of these on the list as separate entries, but the more we looked into it, the more similar they appear to be, as the different elements also had similar effects. Number 3 goes to the keys and bubble variations.
Regular keys can be sort of annoying with how they're aerial enemies that home in onto you very directly, like in Ocarina of Time, or just fly around like a fly for a second like in Wind Waker or Skyward Sword, but it's mostly the elemental ones that we find really annoying.
The fire keys can set you on fire and burn wooden items like the shield, and the ice keys can freeze you for a few seconds, which obviously is frustrating. Then there are the electric keys like in Breath of the Wild that are very bothersome with its electrical attacks that stun you for a short second and even make you drop your weapons.
There are a few instances of red bubbles that use fire as an attack method, which makes the keys and bubble a little similar to each other, but there's also a link between the dark keys and the original bubble, and actually another very similar enemy called Wisp, which apparently is a separate enemy, that curses Link, making him lose the ability to use his sword for a short time.
It goes without saying that not being able to use your sword temporarily is an annoyance from both enemies, They all usually have attacks that can hinder you in some big ways. And it doesn't help that they all usually stay in the air, making it tough in some of the games to actually get to kill them off.
The Dead Rock. The freaking Dead Rock. They move fast, they do a lot of damage, they turn to stone when you hit them, and you pretty much can't kill them off.
In A Link to the Past, that is. Man, there have been so many enemies on this list from A Link to the Past. Why is this one of our favorite games again? Anyway, they do appear in Four Swords Adventures, A Link Between Worlds, and Triforce Heroes as well, but they're somewhat easier to handle there. Like, you can actually kill them in the stone form with the right weapons.
But in the SNES game, the only way to really dispatch them is to use the magic powder on them while they're in their regular form, which will turn them to slimes and then easy to kill. Though, they don't stand still for long, so it's not easy to do. If you use your sword, they just stand in their stone form and won't turn back until a few seconds later. It's fine if you want to just get past them and not get bothered, but the trouble is that they might end up blocking your path, which just makes them worse.
It doesn't exactly help that they only exist on Death Mountain in the Light World, which is an area you reach very early in the game. They're tough enough to handle by themselves, with how much damage they do to you while you probably don't have a lot of hearts by this point, but when they also move so quickly, might end up blocking your path, and have huge boulders falling down on you, it makes the path to the Tower of Hera a pretty annoying one for sure. So, which Zelda 2 enemy is the most annoying?
The Ache?
Yeah, they're sort of annoying. But what about Giro Boku or whatever that thing is?
They're maybe a tiny bit annoying. Or what about Moby?
Sure, they can be. But how about Ra?
Oh, definitely, they're a pain. Or how about the Moa?
Oh my god, they're horrible. You know what? They all kinda are. Yeah, the number one most annoying enemy are the aerial enemies in Zelda 2.
Remember our top 10 worst repeats video? Yeah, spoiler alert, these are the biggest reason why we get a game over in the first place. With the effect of knockbacks in Zelda 2, a lot of the enemies in this game became really annoying, as they can easily push you into some of the many pits in the entire game.
But the aerial ones are definitely the worst to us. They're often very difficult to kill by just being in the air, but some of their unpredictable movement patterns make them almost impossible to get rid of. Sure, the Ra just go past you, but if we had to pick just one enemy that goes beyond all the others, it's the freaking Moa.
You faced these in the overworld, and even the overworld enemies in general could count as number one as well, but how they're so hard to avoid. But whenever you get dragged in by these, there's just no point in risking to try and kill them for us. They're so fast, there are so many of them, they do so much damage, and they are just the peak of the many annoying aerial enemies found in Zelda 2. So those are our picks for the most annoying enemies in the series. Do you agree with us? Maybe not? Please leave your own thoughts on the matter in the comments and throw us a like if you happen to enjoy this video.
And why not subscribe? Because we're going back to a pretty big deal in our next video, which will be the top 10 final dungeon themes. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you then.